Okay, so I mentioned that I have a new tarot deck to show you. I actually have two new tarot decks, exciting, that I got this month. I have the Brady Tarot. It's all here in this very pretty wooden box that I'll show you in just a minute. And I also have the Everyday Tarot, which I got earlier this month. I was looking for a tarot deck that was small, that I could carry with me every day in my purse or in my work bag, but that was substantial enough to actually read with. Regular size tarot decks are quite a bit bigger than this, but I've looked at mini ones before, and they're so small, they're kind of hard to handle. So I thought this was a pretty great size. It's about the same size as a traditional deck of playing cards. And it comes in this nice little box. It's magnetic. It comes with a little book, very brief kind of breakdowns of meanings of the different cards. And then the cards themselves are in a little plastic box here, so it's all nicely packed up. But yeah, I really like that. I've read with it a couple of times. It's a really nice deck to kind of use. And I dropped a little book. All right. It's a really nice deck to kind of use for travel and just to have with you at all times. And since I've been carrying tarot with me pretty frequently, I felt like that I just feel more secure when I have it with me. And I think that kind of comes from just being a tarot reader for a really long time. So anyway, so how are you all doing tonight? Looks like we got a couple folks here. What's been on your minds? We haven't had a Tarot Tuesday in a while. And we're kind of in that month where spooky and witchy things tend to play out on the grand stage, or those things are kind of introduced. I'll show you a little bit more of the Everyday Tarot, kind of what it looks like. Like I said, it's a small deck. It's about the size of a regular deck of playing cards, maybe a little bit smaller. It's got this nice picture on the back that kind of represents the different suits. We've got, wands and cups and swords, and the pentagrams here in the middle. Whew. Washing your nose and yelling at the TV, Natalie. I get that. All right. Although I try not to watch the news very much because it just makes me upset. Here's an example of one of the pictures on the Everyday Tarot. This is the Fool. This is the card 0 from the Major Arcana. Fool's a pretty familiar card. And there are only 3 colors on this. There's the purple, the gold, and the white. And you can see that all of the different cards are sort of use these colors to create these very stylized, like simple shapes, but they're very pretty. And they also depict the original artwork in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck very, very well. So they're a very traditional deck in that sense. So if you're very familiar with reading with a traditional deck, you're familiar with like working with a traditional deck, these will be very familiar to you. And I really like these. I think these are just stylized enough that if you read with them, you would have an easy time kind of making those connections. And that sounds awesome. I'm watching a thunderstorm roll in. That sounds beautiful. Okay, so that is one of the decks that I got recently. And I'm going to show you the other deck that I mentioned in the post earlier that I got, which is the Brady Tarot. So this is a cool tarot deck. And it comes, I actually kickstarted this deck a long time ago, but like over a year ago. And it is created by Emmy Brady, who is a line of cut artist. Hi, Eileen. Nice to see you. And it comes in this beautiful wooden box that's actually magnetic. Very cool. Love the magnets. And signed by her, the inside. Very awesome. And in this wooden box, it came with a beautiful illustrated guidebook. And as you flip through it, it's got, you know, just beautiful descriptions. And one of the cool things about this guidebook is that it was written with collaboration of Rachel Pollack, who is one of the foremost writers on tarot that I know of. She wrote one of my favorite books on tarot, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and she's marvelous. So I think it was so great that we got that she got Rachel to write this book that goes along with the Brady Tarot. But let me actually show you the cards from this deck. They are amazing. So these are all woodcuts, and they were cut out of linoleum, or not woodcuts, like lino cut. What is that called? What the crap is it? Hello? What is it? What is the style of this artwork? I'm an idiot. Hand-colored lino cuts. Okay, so these are lino cuts that Emmy Brady, the artist, carved, and then she printed them, and then she colored them by hand. And these cards are beautiful, and they depict the natural world. So here's the Fool right here. We've got a little baby bird, and we've got a mom bird, or someone feeding this bird something. We've got the number of the card right here. We've got a description of the cards. This is from the Major Arcana. This is what the back looks like. It's some colorful kind of like patterns here of shapes and colors. And again, all of these cards are extremely intricate. This one's one of the less intricate ones, and they're all hand-colored, just beautiful. Hi, Lori. Hi, Anne again. All right, so this is the Fool, and then, I mean, there's like just, I said, like that one isn't even like the close to being like the most intricate. Like here is the Empress, which looks like a wolf and some bunny rabbits and another kind of deer in the back. Let's find this one. I think is amazing. This is the Hierophant. Like we've got this kind of like hawk animal here. I think a hawk with this book sort of with all of these beautiful images of religion and other things kind of happening here to kind of symbolize the traditional meaning of the Hierophant. We've got, and then like the pip cards, the more minor arcana cards, they have the actual name, like numbers and suits on them, but they also have a small meaning on them. And the suits in this deck are arrows, feathers, what's the other ones? Arrows, feathers, horns, and roots. So this is the 7 of feathers, and this represents wands, I believe. And as you can see, we've got the 7, we've got the actual things for the suits on there, and then we've got a meaning right here. So a 7 of wands card often represents power on the deck, so we've got like a one-word kind of depiction of the meaning of the pip cards on all of them, which I think is very cool. Because 78 cards is a lot to remember. But there's this beautiful depiction of the sort of the drama, the story of the cards on here. So we've got, you know, here on the 2 of roots, which would be the 2 of pentacles, we've got this kind of card. This is equilibrium, and the 2 of pentacles in a traditional deck has like an infinity symbol on it. So you see this sort of call back to that. Yeah. But they're very, you know, they depict a lot of really often very, you know, real things in nature, including, you know, like death, illness, pain, in addition to, you know, like the happy, smiley stuff. This card, the 5 of roots depicting scarcity. I mean, we see some starving animals here. And so, you know, we don't just see things that are happy and smiley. We see things that are challenging and painful a lot of the time. And that is very true of what's in nature, and I believe that's something that Emmy Brady wanted to depict. And one of the things about this deck of cards, if you would happen to buy it, I think I left a link to it in the website, is that portion of the proceeds from these cards go to support Earth Justice and a organization to benefit Indigenous people. So it's pretty awesome. All right, so that is the Brady Tarot, which is amazing. All right, so I've not actually read with these cards yet. I just got them in the mail yesterday. I'm very I'm anxious to read with them, but I'm a little bit nervous. So I don't think I'm going to read with them today, but I will read with the Everyday Tarot since I've gotten a little bit more used to it and I feel comfortable reading for someone else with it. All right, so I'll put these guys back in their box. Okay. So what I think I'm going to do is, Lori left a question in my original post here for Tarot Tuesday about her purpose, about work. And I think I will start with that question with her, and then I will pull a card for all of us as kind of our message for the end of this, for this month, kind of going to the end of this month. Like I mentioned at the beginning of my live, there's a lot of phenomenon going on this month. We're right around now, there's a full moon that just happened. We're ending Libra season, going into Scorpio season, if you're into the zodiac signs and what those mean. And then we're coming up on Halloween, or Samhain, or Samhain as it's often known in like earth-centered spiritualities. So lots and lots of things. So let's do a little reading for Anne, or I'm sorry, for Lori, excuse me. So Lori had the question that, I'll type this in. So we're going to do a quick reading for Lori about her purpose, kind of see what the cards have to say about what she needs to know at this time, about kind of her purpose, her work, kind of where her path is leading, where she needs some guidance with that. So I'm going to shuffle and think about that particular question. And Lori had a question about, you know, what's the best way to phrase a question as you read tarot, or if you have like a particular, Lori said that's my middle name. Oh, see? So whenever you're sort of posing a question that you're going to read for, a lot of times people will want to say like, will I ever get married, or will I ever find true love, or will I ever be rich or something? And it's not a great idea to kind of put those kinds of, I would say, you know, like ultimatums on cards, because my philosophy is that we're kind of ultimately asking our own intuition coupled with what we know from the universe for answers. And messages kind of come to us at the time that they need to come to us. But oftentimes we don't really know what we're looking for. So that's why I like to frame questions like, what do I need to know about this subject right now? So that's what I'm going to pose for Lori. What does Lori need to know right now for about her purpose, about career, about those kinds of things? All right. Okay. Still shuffling. Okay. All right. So the card that I have pulled for Lori is the Five of Pentacles. So on this card, we see a very stylized description of a woman in the cold, kind of in the snow, and we have this window behind her with these pentacles depicted, and that's very similar to the traditional Five of Pentacles card. One thing about the suit of Pentacles is that they are representative of Earth. Pentacles always represent Earth, and that's a slow-moving energy. It's the slowest moving energy in the minor arcana. So you might be wishing that, oops, sorry about that. You might be wishing that, you know, the answer would reveal itself very quickly. But what the pentacles are trying to tell you when they come up is that, you know, things aren't going to happen quickly, or things are not moving fast at this time. There's a lot more slowness. There's a lot more stillness. There's introspection. This card is a tough one when it comes up because it seems to depict so much strife. It seems to depict so much difficulty. You know, there's this person who's exposed to the cold. They're alone. They're kind of turning away from comfort, or the comfort is being refused to them. And that's really challenging. Fives in the tarot often are challenging cards to begin with. So a five is a challenge. There's worries with fives, and with the realm of pentacles, we're looking also not only at slow energy, but also at the realm of the material world. In some of the original Italian decks, pentacles were called coins, and they still are called coins in many decks. And they represent the material realm, which includes finances, money, the home, those kinds of things. So we could be looking at difficulty when it comes to finances. And that may be what the case is right now. There's a lot of strife. There's a lot of difficulty when it comes to material security, when it comes to financial security, when it comes to like just knowing how to feel secure and comfortable in what you're doing. There's just not a lot of that happening right now. There's a lot of worry around that. There's a lot of insecurity around that. And that is challenging. However, another thing to remember about fives and about any kinds of cards in the deck is that they're kind of midway through a cycle. If we think about the numbers 1 to 10, 10 being a beginning, 5 would be the middle of a cycle. And it is smack in the middle where things seem kind of the most challenging. And I think that what the message is coming through about purpose and about career is that you're in the middle of a cycle. You're in the middle of discovering something. You're in the middle of a challenge right now. You're so smack in the middle that it just feels like, you know, how am I ever going to get out of this shit, so to speak? Kind of in the middle of the river, and you're wondering, you know, when am I going to get out? You know, you'll get out when you get to the other side. You're right in the middle. There is some risk that you would start tying your own sense of self-worth to this feeling of insecurity right now. But you have to remember that the circumstances that are depicted in this card are temporary ones. They're not permanent. The pip cards, or the minor arcana cards, which is where this one comes from, are cards that are indicating something that you're going through. and they're indicating events. They're not indicating kind of something that is breaking you or changing you or degrading your value. It's just that this is the circumstances that you're in right now that are difficult and challenging for you, that are making you question your worth. And the message of this card is that's temporary, don't give up. It sucks right now. It's really in the middle of a sucky cycle, but that cycle will progress. You're just in the hardest part of it right now. You're kind of in the lowest dip of the valley. It's going to start getting better from here. Hi, Betsy. I'm glad you're here too. So Laura, you said that kind of resonates with you. Sounds like a lot like your job. Yeah, I think that what you need to keep in mind is that there is a sense of needing to protect yourself and a sense of needing to care for yourself because you feel so much insecurity, and that feeling is temporary, and at the end of that cycle you may have more clarity about what you want to know. But right now the universe is saying that what you need to know right now is that this is temporary, not giving up, don't give up. This is kind of the darkest moment right now, but the end of the cycle is coming, and with that, a chance for sort of renewed clarity. Because this is kind of what you need to hear right now. It might be too overwhelming to look at this and then have to think about some other place to go. So what the universe is saying right now is hang in there, don't give up. It feels really shitty right now. But this is a good time for you to practice not letting the negativity affect your own sense of self and self-worth. So I hope that that was helpful for you. Okay. All right, so right now, before I go, I am going to pull one more card that has a sort of a message for all of us in kind of finding our way to the end of the month. Laura says, thank you. I try to be positive about my job, and I'm seeing there's a lesson in being there. There might be a lesson in being there, and maybe not. You may not find the lesson going there. There might not be a lesson in the outward world. There might be more of a lesson in you finding a way to shore up your own self-worth. And that might be what's being said. So I hope that, yeah, it's hard to be positive in negative places, but the important thing is we can learn to let negativity, or we can learn to kind of protect ourselves from ourselves and our sense of self-worth from the negativity around us, which is hard to do and takes quite some time. Yeah. All right, so now I'm going to shuffle again, again with the Everyday Tarot. And I'm going to choose a card that'll be kind of our lesson or our little message for what we should know or what our message is, again, until the end of this month. Like I said, we are in the middle of the last full week of October, or we'll be starting like the last sort of full 7 days of October. And it's a very interesting astrological and sort of celestial seasonal time. So let's see what our message is. Sometimes people in earth religions or witches often believe that around the time of October 31st or Samhain, the veil that separates all of the different planes of reality was very thin, so that the messages that would come through to us from other reaches of the universe were very clear, or you could get a lot more. So if you want to think about it that way, we'll go from there. All right. I'll shuffle one more time. Okay, and again, this is our lesson or our little message from the universe at this time. Okay, well, that's quite a message. Okay. All right, so the card that I've drawn for all of us right now is the Eight of Swords. And as you're looking at it, not gonna lie, it looks a little bit scary. We've got this figure who is blindfolded and also bound. Her hands are at her sides. She can't move her hands. We've got these swords behind her and, you know, with the point down, and they're representing some strife here. So this card obviously represents some difficulty and some challenges. And you know what? Those things come up. Obviously, with this character looking bound and being unable to see in this circumstance where she is, there is a sense of being stuck. Hi, Dale. There's a sense of being stuck. There is a sense of, you know, I'm stuck where I am. I can't go further. I can't find any wiggle room to get out of these bonds that I'm in right now. There's just no way for me to go any direction because, you know, my arms are at my sides. I can't really make anything happen. And another thing you can see here, we've got some water down below too here, which is, seems like a minor detail, but it is really important. That water is depicted pretty much in every other deck of cards that depicts the Eight of Swords this way. We see this figure, she's bound, her arms are bound, and her eyes are blindfolded. But there's one thing that she may not be noticing, and that is that she can move her feet. Her feet aren't bound. And I think that one of the key things to remember about this card is that when we are in situations where we feel very stuck, and we feel like we've exhausted all of our options, there is a sense that we may need to look at other sort of passages out because we're not as stuck as we think we are. Sometimes we're so caught up in what seems like our stuckness that we don't see that there are other parts of us that are free and can move around and find alternatives. So as you can see, her arms are bound, she's blindfolded, you know, she's got her head down, she's feeling very despairing, but she can move her feet, but she's forgotten that she can move her feet because she's so focused on the fact she can't move her arms. You know, it seems kind of silly, but think of how many times, you know, you're so focused on you know, maybe trouble that you're having in one aspect of your life and feeling so stuck in that aspect of your life that you don't realize that there are other parts of your life where you can take joy. There are other parts of your life where you can find solutions and fulfillment and joy, you know, and happiness in other places. I'm feeling this right now myself as I'm looking at her because I'm having trouble kind of balancing all of my own responsibilities, and I'm feeling like, oh, there's no wiggle room for me to carve out any time to do anything else. And I really want to carve out time for this one project, but I can't. And I think this card is trying to tell me, and maybe everyone else, that look around. You're only seeing one part of you that can't move. You're only, you know, sensing that one part of you is bound. There's a lot of other freedom and a lot of other options for you. So it's asking you to assess what you can do to connect with your creativity. And this is a great time of year to connect with creativity. And this is a place that is asking you, this is a card that's asking you, like, you know, connect with your independence, connect with your spirit that is very, very inventive. Find where you're not stuck. Find where you can move and move. Okay, so that's the message of this card from me to you. And from me to me, like I really need to look at this for a little while and be like, okay, all right, universe, I got you. All right, so a couple of people asked a couple of questions. Hi, Annalie. Hi, Betsy. Annalie says, I'm not too late. Should I start an independent stat consulting business? That's a good question. I feel like that would be a good question for like an in-depth reading, and we could kind of talk through those things together. And that kind of ties into what Betsy is saying. Am I doing individual readings? I'm doing these Tarot Tuesdays kind of semi-regularly, just kind of for fun and entertainment, and sort of learning and talking in the Sabbatical Beauty group. But I do read individually. I do individual readings for people on a per appointment basis. And that is if that is something that you are interested in, if anybody wanted to have a, actually sit down and talk about doing an individual reading with me, I would be happy to talk to you about that. Yeah, I do private individual readings. And yeah, so if you're interested in having something like that, feel free to direct message me on Facebook, and we can talk about doing that. I would love to read for you. Reading is definitely a passion of mine, and I love sort of helping folks find their way, and I would love to work with anyone else in this team or on this group. So it's been talking for about 35 minutes, so I'm going to end it here. I believe that there is another Tarot Tuesday coming up in November. I don't know the exact date, but just keep your eyes peeled on the group. Hi, Eileen. Yes, please just PM me if you're interested in talking about doing like an individual private reading. And yeah, I hope that you have a great rest of your evening and rest of your week. I hope that Scorpio season brings you lots of interesting blessings, and I hope that Halloween and Samhain bring you wisdom and beauty and a sense that this world really has a lot to offer us. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, everybody.